Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to video number 4 in the series, or more specifically, 4A. Components is probably going to need to be split up into a couple episodes. I don't think I can fit this all in a 15-minute video, but let's get right into it. The three different things you're going to need are a QML. This is going to be the custom button QML. It's fairly simple. It's just a button with width and height that's kind of set. A little complicated, but it's set. This is default code that comes when you ask for a component from the Qt Design Studio. But I'm just going to go ahead and link this for you, so you can just download it. Yes, you have some padding. You have a text for the button that says My Button. You have a background that consists of a rectangle. You have some more text here, and then you have a state. And in the state, if it's clicked, it's going to change colors, and when it's not clicked, it's going to go back to a different color. So it's a pretty simple button. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have an image for our master screen, and then we're also going to have an image for the button itself, which I'm going to shoehorn another Rickroll in there, this time a full torso picture for the button. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the project file, and let's start creating the directory for the custom button. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new folder, and we're going to call this custom. Within custom, we're going to create another folder called components. And we're going to open up components, and in here we're going to want another folder called designer. We're also going to want our actual buttons folder. I like to use underscore on the components within the components tab, so they're above the designer, just to keep designer on the bottom, but that's kind of optional. So then now within buttons we're going to create another folder, and this is going to be the custom button. And we're going to go ahead and drop that QML code right into here. We're also going to create a images folder, and we're going to pass in the button's image. So now in the components tab within Qt, or within below the designer, we're also going to want to create a text document. It's going to be a file, not a text document, but this is going to be the QML directory. And to explain what designer and QML directory it is, I'll kind of explain to you in Qt internals, because I already had one set up and we're going to need to change this anyways. So if I go ahead and go into a QML directory, you can see that you have the file path specification here, which I was in the project directory, so that was pretty simple. And then you have your import path, and then you have the QML that's associated to that import path. So we'll just go ahead and change it from this module I to qt.internals, just like so. And we'll go ahead and go into the designer. Every designer is going to have a meta info. What you call the meta info, like they're calling this one plugin, that doesn't seem to matter at all. Or as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to matter what you name them. But we're going to go ahead and edit this, and as you can see, the name was set to i.eventlistSimulator, which was what it was previously named. So again, we're just going to come in here and rename this to qt.internals. Okay, so now that we have that set, we're going to come back out, and we're going to go into custom components, and actually I'm going to back out to the main project file and just open this up right now in VS Code. Okay, so I'm going to go into the custom, and we're just going to start with the QML directory because it's the first one I saw. So the module, again, is the file path, which is going to be custom components. And we're going to set a couple flags here. We're going to turn on designer supported. We're going to do a type info, and that's going to be plugins.qml types. And now we're going to specify the custom button, give it a version, and now we're going to specify the path to it. So the path to it is relative to the QML directory. So we're going to need to go into buttons. From buttons, we're going to go into custom button. And from custom button, we're going to go into the QML. Alright. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the designer tab. Oh, we didn't create the designer. Okay. let's go into custom components designer, and we're going to create the meta info. So that's custom, oops, no, not a folder. Custom components dot meta info. And actually, so it's different from what the folder is named or anything. We're just gonna make it singular. Okay, so now we're gonna go back into VS Code, and now if I go into designer, I have the meta info. So we're gonna create a meta info. Within the meta info, we're gonna create a type. Within the type, we're gonna create an item library entry. And we're going to go ahead and fill all this out. So we're going to go ahead and do the name. And for here, I like to specify the full path. So it's going to be custom, oh, got to do this in string. Custom components buttons. Custom buttons, that's the folder. And then it's also going to want the button itself, which is custom button. And you don't specify QML here. So then we're going to do the icon for this as well, which is the image. This is a little different. You're going to do relative path from the folder. So we're going to back out of directory because we're in the designer. So now we're outside of the designer. So then we're going to go into buttons. From buttons, we're going to go into the images. I called it images, right? Yeah. And then that's going to be workrel2.png. Okay, now we're going to go into the item library entry, and we're going to give this a name. The name's going to be custom button. So this information here I'm filling out is for the components tab, just the components tab in that GUI itself. We're going to need a category, those buttons. Need a library icon. And again, the library icon, so from what I understand, I may have this backwards, but icon is what displays as the big picture within components, and when you go to drag it over, it becomes a smaller box, and then that would be the item library entry that you would use. So typically in all the other folders for the pre-built stuff, you would have a bigger image, and then you would have the same image but smaller here. I don't have that for the sake of this video. We'll just keep it simple, and we're just going to use the same image. So we're also going to specify a version. Going to give it a required import. And we're going to give it a tooltip. So when you highlight over it, it can say something. Oop, and if you spotted the error here, we actually need to do custom button to get into that folder. Oh, and the required import is not 1.0, it is custom components. Oh, it's a whoopsie. Okay, now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead and close VS Code out. And we're going to go into screens because we're going to want to set the same stuff up for screens. So we're going to go in here and we're going to create a designer. QML directory. We'll just go ahead and edit this QML directory. Okay, so again, we're specifying the file path, and then we have the main window version here tied to the QML itself. We're going to go into Designer, and again, we're actually going to create an images folder in here, and we're going to create the meta info. So we're going to go ahead and drop the crown into here, and then we're going to go ahead and go back to VS Code, and we're going to edit that meta info. And again, this is pretty much the same thing as last time. Oh, forgot my quotes. So icon's going to be a little bit more convenient because we don't have to back out a directory. And that was crown.png. Now we're going to do the name. Put it in the category. Give it a version. Oh. And we'll go ahead and give it a tooltip. Okay, now that we have this done, let's go ahead and open up QtDeisgn Studio. And we're going to navigate to our project. Now from here we can go ahead and import custom.components. Oops. 1.0. And as you can see, our image goes ahead and shows up, and we get our tooltip. And I can go ahead and drag that in. And as you can see, our button shows up. And if I go ahead and debug this, you can see that we now have a button. And the only code for that is the actual component itself. Okay, so that should be the end of this video. For B, we're going to go ahead and create a Python script that ties into QtDeisgn Studio to launch it. We're also going to go ahead and create an audio class that's going to go ahead and handle the audio for Python, and then we're going to create a transparent button that allows you to put an image on it, and it's going to have other features like when you hover over it, it can play an audio, or when you click it, it can play a different audio. And yeah, that's what 4B is going to be about. So I will see you then, and thank you for watching till the end.